Hello. All right. Let me share my screen real quick. Okay. Alrighty. So my 2030 Epic Games bid was for Baltimore. Um, I'm from Maryland. I live and breathe Baltimore. I'm Baltimore everything. Like you can see the pennant back there. Um, so for me, it made sense to do my city for the Epic Games. So let's get started. So why Baltimore? So it has a very rich history. The Inner Harbor in Baltimore City has been a port for tobacco and grain since the 1700s. Fort McHenry and the Star Spangled Banner is was written in Baltimore, so that means a lot to the city. Um, the U.S. Navy's first ship, the Constellation, was in Baltimore. Um, sometimes Baltimore gets a bad rep for not being the greatest city. Uh, Crime, murder. Um, but a lot of people take great pride in Maryland. They take great pride in the state and their history. There's a lot of unique neighborhoods in Baltimore that kind of bring their own unique aspect to the greater whole. So that's why I think Baltimore would be such a great city for the Epic Games. It's a blue collar city with a lot of very hard workers that try and do everything they can to get by. Um, so I think that would inspire a lot of other people who, maybe the athletes of the Epic Games who work so hard, work, constantly, blood, sweat, and tears to get to this point. They can look to people from Baltimore and say, they do the same thing. They work so hard to, live. They work so hard to put food on the table for their families, to provide. It's very inspiring stuff. So my theme for the Epic Games would be rising to the top. So kind of just what we were talking about. Baltimore's not a it's not a bright lights, palm trees, Hollywood, Los Angeles type of vibe. It's a very real life perspective, and I think having it in Baltimore would teach people a lot of humility because the athletes work so hard to get to this point. Like I said, much like the residents of Baltimore work hard for what they have, for the food that they can provide their families, for the life they can provide for their families. So the legacy of the Baltimore Epic Games um, is not just for the athletes to, come stay for 10 days and leave, but it's more to it's much bigger than that. It's to embrace the city, it's to embrace the culture, the people that live there. You go and you talk to any small business owner in Baltimore, and they're some of the nicest people that you will ever meet. I promise you that. So let's get right into it. So the bid phase is a 4-month process completed by Baltimore City government officials and Maryland state officials. Governor Larry Hogan will have a huge role in this bid and trying to get the Epic Games to Baltimore. The preparation phase. So right off the bat, there's two major projects that need to be completed. Number one is the Epic Games Aquatic Center. And number two is the Epic Games basketball arena. We're going to put them right next to each other on the same corner of Washington Boulevard and South Monroe Street. It's close to all of the other venues, so it makes perfect sense. It's a 5-year process, so we're going to start right away. Right after we get the bid, we're going to start construction right away. And then once we're done that, the next thing that we're going to do is in 2027, we're going to expand the seating at M&T Bank Stadium from 71,008 to 80,000 seats. And this makes sense in order for as many spectators to come and see their athletes perform. Going off of that, as we near closer to the 2030 games, we're going to block off the city streets for the cycling road event, and we're going to place 75,000 of those seats. In the West Harbor, we're going to place 50,000 seats for sailing, rowing, and the canoe sprint. This should be a 6-month process for both. We have to get it done by May 2030. No later, because obviously the games are going to be in the summer. So no later than May 2030. The event phase, we need help, from facilities management, selling the tickets, admitting the fans, scanning tickets, concessions, parking. All workers and volunteers are going to be so crucial in making sure that the event phase is completed as perfectly and as smoothly and as efficiently as possible. The legacy stage, the big thing with holding a games or an Olympics or a Super Bowl or anything like that is, you might build all these big cities, or I'm sorry, all these big facilities, but what are you going to do with them afterwards? Are you just going to let them sit there and you're going to let them rot, or are you going to actually use them? But Baltimore is fully committed, fully committed to using these facilities to host the Epic Games. Fully committed to using them after for camps, tournaments, exhibition. We want to inspire the younger kids of Baltimore not to get wrapped up in any trouble, and to teach them that if they work hard, they can be a part of something great and something much bigger than themselves. So I've mapped off kind of where I see all the venues. So if you look to the left, you can see the Epic Games basketball arena and aquatic centers. We have Oriole Park at Camden Yards, home to the Orioles. We have M&T Bank Stadium, home to the Ravens. We have Royal Farms Arena, where numerous concerts are held there. And then the Northwest Harbor. So like I said, M&T Bank Stadium, we're going to increase from 71,000 seats to 80,000. That's going to be for track and field, rugby, and football. 15,000 seat capacity for Royal Farms Arena. That's going to be table tennis, trampoline, gymnastics, fencing, weightlifting, judo, and karate. For Oriole Park, it's a 46,000 seat capacity for handball. For the Inner Harbor, we're going to do sailing, rowing, and canoe sprint. For the Baltimore streets, we're going to do our cycling road. For the Aquatic Center, we're going to do swimming, water polo, and diving. And for the basketball arena, we're going to do, obviously, basketball and basketball 3-on-3. Our 2 athlete villages, so our 1 athlete village is Towson University, which is up in northern Baltimore. It's about a 25 to 30-minute drive. And so the idea behind that is, that might seem a little far, but the idea behind it being so far away from the games themselves is to ensure that the athletes can kind of get themselves in the right headspace, kind of block out the white noise, focus on what they need to do. So that's why we're going to kind of isolate them in their village. So I've marked off the student-owned housing, apartment style, dorm style, that it'll all be utilized. There's plenty of housing. As for the coaches and officials, we're going to do UMBC, which is University of Maryland, Baltimore County. It's a lot closer. It's about 10 to 15 minutes away. And again, I've blocked off all the student housing that will be used. As far as transportation goes, Baltimore's transit is a 24-hour running train system. We can also utilize our ride-sharing apps like Uber and Lyft. The athletes and the coaches will have their own buses to transport them to and from their villages. And then for spectators, we have public parking garages, public parking spaces. There's plenty of parking down there. As far as accommodations, plenty of rooms are available as far as hotels and motels. And a lot of people may decide that they don't want to stay in Baltimore City, and that's totally fine. The surrounding counties are more than welcoming. So you have Baltimore County, you have Howard County, Anne Arundel, and Hartford. Those are the ones that surround Baltimore City. Some may choose to spend all 10 days in Baltimore. Some might be deciding that, you know what, I only want to stay for a couple of events, so I'll stay for a few nights. Some might even live in Maryland, so they may decide that they're just going to drive up for the day. As far as our costs and revenues are concerned, total capital costs are about $5.2 billion. Our operational costs are about $285 million. Our post-game costs are $50 million, and this is annual. The $50 million is an annual cost for upkeeping the facilities new and old. So the Epic Games Aquatic Center, we were just talking about the legacy phase and making sure that they're going to be upkept. So this is where the $50 million is going to go. The revenue generation, the whole 10-day time frame for the Epic Games is the revenue generation is about $3.9 billion. So I know it's the costs are more than the revenue. So that if the total revenue generation is 3.9 billion, total costs are 5.5 billion, then there's actually a net loss of 1.6 billion, which may seem like a lot, but the money will be made back through taxpayer dollars. People will most likely donate before, during, and after the 2030 Epic Games. So a good portion of that money will be to make up for the net loss that it will be incurred through the Epic Games. And that's my presentation. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much.